There is one kind of quadratic function, a special kind, that's really important to be able to recognize and to create. And those are perfect square quadratics. So I have two functions here, f of x, which is x squared minus 10x plus 16, and g of x, which is x squared minus 8x plus 16. And they're similar. They both end in a 16, and negative 10 and negative 8 are close together, but only one is a perfect square. In order to discover which that is, I'm going to factor them. I'm going to start with f of x, and I'm going to figure out what are numbers that multiply to equal positive 16, but add to equal negative 10. And I know that that's negative 8 and negative 2. X minus 8 times x minus 2. G of x, let's see here. What are numbers that multiply to equal positive 16, but add to equal negative 8? Well, that's negative 4 and negative 4. So which one is the perfect square, think in your head? Well, it's the one where the factors are the same. X minus 4 times x minus 4, I could rewrite that as x minus 4 squared. So it's a perfect square. This is the one that's a perfect square. And hopefully you can remember this, but when I factor it, that part of the factor there is exactly half of the b term. Right? In the original function, the b was negative 8. Negative 4 is half of that. So I could factor this down here. And the thing that's really important to note is that the c term, 16, is half the b term, but squared. So negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. And then I square it, and I get positive 16. So if you know you have a perfect square, if you take half the b term, and then you square it, and you get the c term. So you know that if c equals half of the b term to the second power, then it's a perfect square. Okay, so now we can recognize perfect squares. So this is a perfect square, and I'm going to prove it to you because the b term is 12. And the c term is 12 divided by 2 squared. 6 squared is 36. So since half the b term squared is the c term, this has to be a perfect square. I can factor that very easily to, it's just x plus 6 squared. I'm supposed to graph this. Well, it's actually already in vertex form. The vertex, it turns out, of a perfect square, vertex form, right here, it's negative 6 and then 0. So the vertex is on the x-axis. So I'm just going to graph this really fast by making a parabola and going to negative 6, 0 for the vertex. And then I'll go over 1 and up 1, and I'll go over 2 and up 4, and I'll do the same thing to make a symmetrical parabola, and that's probably good for the purposes. So start out by just practicing factoring your perfect squares and finding the vertex and graphing them.